All right, good place to begin our discussion tonight. With me is PS, Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Government. I'll be speaking to Dr. Karanja Kibicho in a moment. But first, as tradition, and perhaps the second last time we're going back to history. Let's take a look at the newspaper. That's the Bold newspaper, back in time to the date today, 5 years ago, just 5 days to the election. That was the headline. Final countdown. And of course, teams were on either side. We had President Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto on one side, and the NASA team also on the other side on this day. So that was the headline. But that's not the only thing we were reporting about on that day. Bad news for those in marriages. Law doesn't recognize, all right, gold diggers, and all that was also a top story then in the Bold newspaper. And of course, something that we are going to touch on tonight, Msando's autopsy verdict. He was strangled. I mean, last week was the first anniversary since his death, and the family is still crying for justice. We try and see if there's something that we can tell the family tonight from the PS. And apart from that, officer recalls mystery bird that flew from Russia. You remember that bird? It's a Bold picture in the Standard. The Bold newspaper, back in time, 5 years to the date today. The election is just 5 years away. We'll be giving you at the end of the show the video of the week. You have to stay on for that. All right, let's begin the discussion. Thank you so much for staying on, PS. I know you said that so that we don't come to the discussion about the county of Kisumu and that advisory. I'll not go back to it, but the concern is, as you map out areas, green, yellow, blue, and red areas, it's important that at least you anticipate anything can happen. And you rightly say Migori, Kisumu, Homa Bay have shared some common history. Why don't you just, as Ministry of Interior, just deploy, just in case there is need? Why do you sit pretty and say it's one of the areas that you're not even bothered about in terms of post-election clashes?
Thank you again, Ken, and I'm happy to be back. Let me start by saying our security mapping does not mean that the areas that are not hotspots are without security. It does not mean that. What it means, when we think an area has the potential to get troublesome, we deploy more than usual. Kisumu has security deployment. We shall have coverage in all polling centers. We shall have coverage for general duties. We shall have coverage of security in Kisumu, like we shall have in other areas that are not hotspots. But in the hotspot areas, because we expect trouble, then we deploy more, a little more, like we have done in some of the areas in the Rift Valley, where we have seen even leaflets flying around. That's what it means. So what I want to assure, so that we also remove this misconception, is Kisumu has appropriate deployment.
Okay.
And we are not taking anything for granted. And we have done our mapping. This mapping is done by security experts, but obviously people who are out there causing suspicions are more security experts than the actual experts. What I can assure you is it was a mistake from the U.S. Embassy, and no wonder they withdrew that advisory
so this is clear, PS.
It's clear.
This is clear now. Yeah. So let's talk about what you have just mentioned about the leaflet. This is worrying, and it happens. It occurs every election cycle. I mean, you sitting at Harambee House, and these leaflets are flying around. I know there are people in custody, but apart from just the press conference that they have been arrested and they're being investigated, what else is the ministry doing about these leaflets that have been flying that have the potential also of pushing and pulling each side of this political divide?
There is no way the National Police Service will police 50 million Kenyans one-to-one. And the reaction of Kenyans generally is as a result of what their leaders are saying. Before we saw these leaflets, we had seen, especially the Kenya Kwanza side, trying to speak very inflammatory things in Rift Valley. It's in public domain. And immediately after they finished this reckless talk, we started seeing leaflets. And we have seen a lot of blame games. saying, oh, it's the office of the president creating leaflets, is you know, those blame games that are meaningless. What we are doing is trying to get, because we've already arrested people, they're in our custody, and they lead us to who the masterminds of these leaflets are. But all I want to say is leaders need to be careful about what they speak, because we know the political temperatures are high, but it's not time to be reckless in what people say, because there are laws in this country, and their laws are not frozen at this time, because there are elections. Anyone who will be found guilty of actually masterminding these leaflets will be acted upon, and we are getting very good leads from the people who are already arrested. Let people stop crying foul and playing reverse psychology with people. We need to tame our tongues. The people in Kenya Kwanza need to tame their tongues, because it is after their
Are you linking
reckless.
the two, by the way? Are you linking those pronouncements in Rift Valley to the leaflets, because they came after? And what is the link?
The campaigns have not just started last week. These campaigns have been going on since, some have been going on for 4 years, and leaflets have not been there, because there has not been careless talk. The moment the careless talk and political temperature started heating up, especially from that side, because this other side we've seen calmness, we've seen a lot of consensus building and peacemaking. This other side is just fired up and talking very reckless things. And I am here because we are listening, and we are the people responsible for security in this country. And if something goes wrong, we will be held responsible. And we have to call out people who are reckless, and we will not spare any moment to call them out. They are reckless, and they need to know that elections in this country are delicate and can end up messy because of what we say. We cannot accept that when people are reckless and leaflets start flying, the easier way for them is to blame. We have not had any one of them condemn the people who have those leaflets. We have not had any one of them tell the people not to flee that area. We have not had any assurance from any of them that we are talking to our people and there shall not be violence. All we are doing as Interior is to try to double and deploy to reassure Kenyans. And what I can say today is, because we have actually mapped out these areas, is that Kenyans are safe, even in those areas where there are leaflets. We have deployed appropriately, and nobody should leave their homes. Nobody should leave where they stay. They should stay. We will provide them with the security and the environment to have a peaceful election.
Are you saying that because the person who made the remarks was none other than the Deputy President, are you saying the Deputy President was reckless in his remarks?
You know, I don't want to go on.
But he's the one who made them.
Yeah,
Dr. Kibicho.
He's the one who made them.
Yes.
And he should actually go out and retract these statements so that people are calm. Because he's a leader. He should retract and be responsible, to know that he has a following of people who believe in him, and when he behaves in a certain way, they respond. And I think the response, because there are also other people who don't believe in him, the response must not pit a Kenyan against a Kenyan. That's all I'm saying.
What of the school of thought that the leaflets, because the accusation is that the leaflets originally came from the office of the president, to be a justification for extra deployment in that area?
You see, we are not deploying any other way than had been put in the operation order. Because certainly, even before the leaflets, we had our hotspot map, a thermal map for this country, where we expect there could be problems. We would be reckless to think in a traditionally hot area like that one, that things will not probably heat up, especially when there's a presidential candidate from that area. And therefore, when we did our thermal map, those are the same areas. We will expect that there will be a bit of tension because of historical facts around Molo. We will expect there will be historical problems around Kuresoi, we'll have historical problems in Uasin Gishu, and therefore we will deploy appropriately so that we can reassure the communities that are there, that are believed not to be the natives of that place, give them confidence that they can stay on. Government is watching over your back and nothing will go wrong. We need to reassure people. It's our responsibility to ensure that every Kenyan who lives in fear is reassured of his security. And what other method can you use other than them seeing the presence of government? Those people are there to reassure Kenyans. And I'm reassuring them today that we have appropriate deployment. Those people are trained appropriately. They will not affect anyone who doesn't cause trouble. And they should actually just go on with their business, go vote, go home, and wait for the results.
So you're saying, in spite of those leaflets that have circulated, which clearly puts a particular member of the society, members of the society at risk, you are not doing extra deployment. You're going as per your deployment, and you're also telling Kenyans tonight that you're not justifying the amount of deployment of resources you're taking in that area based on the leaflets that have been circulated.
Ken, deployment of police officers is happening now because the election is next week. You wouldn't have deployed 1 month ago for an election of 9. The Inspector General of Police gazetted all the police officers who are required by IEBC way before these leaflets. And he has deployed them in accordance. Just pick the gazette notice of the police officers who are gazetted by the Inspector General of Police and see there is nothing that is out of that deployment order. And what we are seeing is because the leaflets and the deployment has come at the same time, one may misinterpret that to mean that it is done because they are leaflets. But this is an operation order that was created way before these leaflets, because we started preparing for this election as a Ministry of Interior and other institutions that are concerned with security of this country 1 year ago.
Okay.
We have been meeting with IEBC, asking them about their requirements, which we have met fully. And that is why IG, to just be transparent, had to gazette.
Okay. But don't you think it's a justification to protect Kenyans by sending extra resources to that area because of this? I know you had planned, but don't you think that's a justification? If you had it today that Migori, where I come from, is not okay, and you had planned for 2 trucks and 3 officers, and you hear there's this potential that it may escalate, is that not a justification just to send a little more in there?
Let me tell you like this. Because we haven't stopped doing our evaluation of the security situation for all the parts of the country. Every day we are evaluating, every day we are getting reports from the field. If, for example, we are convinced that the deployment that we have done, that was planned way back, needs to be escalated, we shall do so without a problem. Because it is the right of every Kenyan to be provided with security and to feel comfortable that they will vote online without harassment and without being intimidated, because apparently they don't come from that place. This Kenya belongs to all of us. Any Kenyan can live anywhere in this country, and we have to reassure them. And the only way to reassure them is to ensure that they can see the deployment of security around them. And these people are friendly, they have not gone there to fight, but to protect them.
Okay, and the interest and protection of human is key and right at the top of the priorities of the government. Now, you termed that careless talk. I don't know what you will term this, and I'd really want you to tell Kenyans what you're doing about this. Deputy President William Ruto claimed in the campaign platform and even said, you should not kill our children. The following day, his deputy, Gachagua, also made the same statements about death. I mean, in an election where the past election, there's a life that was lost that is not yet resolved, the family is still crying for justice. When 2 prominent Kenyans and of such standing make such allegations, the interest is, what has Interior done? Have they been summoned to write statement? Have they voluntarily written statements about this? Or we are waiting for something to happen and then they'll say, they said this at the campaign trail?
You know, I doubt any of them remembers they said that. I doubt. because it's politics. It's time to seek sympathy. It's time, because if anyone was serious about it, they would have gone to the DCI, reported their fears, reported threats in their lives.
There are no reports?
There are zero reports, not even in a police patrol base. Zero report. So these are things that are said to just excite crowds.
But
because
they're dangerous.
They are dangerous, and this is what I have kept saying, Ken, that we need to tame our tongues. This thing is not a do or die thing that you can cause chaos in this country just because you want to be president. We need to be careful about what we say. I will not say much more than His Excellency the President said on this matter. He has been president of this country for the last 10 years. He has been told things, and I saw the other day people denying that they've not been abusing him. They have been abusing him, and he's been taking it in his stride, and he has not reacted to these insults. He's continued in this development agenda. He has now 5 days to the election. What would be the motivation of doing what they are saying now, which he couldn't do 3 years ago when the insults were of equal measure? I think I wouldn't say much more than that, because these are talks that, we have seen in the past, people even trying to stage shooting against themselves to just attract public sympathy. You saw in 2017 in Westlands, people even trying to shoot their own windscreen. And we caught them trying to do that because they want the public to think that they are the underdogs and they are under threat by I don't know who. And I think these are very old tricks.
Make such statements just for sympathy. And the law is very clear. If we would lose one presidential candidate or even the running mate, this election would be postponed. I mean, as Interior, have you moved in, for example, to ensure that their security is beefed up, or you're also dismissing it?
You've actually nailed it on the head. We understand that if we lost a presidential candidate at this time, all the efforts that we have done preparing for this election will come to zero. And therefore, it is in the interest of government to ensure that the 4 presidential candidates are safe. As I speak to you, each one of them has an airtight security around them. They are protected, nobody is threatened, and we are doing our best to ensure that even their own running mates are protected, because we understand the consequences. And I think people who have not understood the requirements of the law and what we are doing to ensure that these people are safe will be reckless in what they are saying. But what I can say to exit that point is that there is no threat on any of them. There is no threat on any of their children. There has not been at all. There is nobody following them, and there is no reason to do so. And therefore, they should look for another line of attracting public sympathy. There are many lines, but that one is a non-starter.
Okay. One of the families that tragically are still waiting for justice 5 years on, Dr. Kibicho, is the Chris Musanda's family. 5 years on, even the 3 leads that the government had, right, have not been concluded. And the family is still crying for justice. What would you tell that family, because you have been there for a while? I mean, the justice system is independent, but it resides within your scope. What would you tell this family? Because that was not even a threat. That was something that was carried out.
Yeah, I think we don't have a timeline to close files on criminal activities like those. And you must agree with me, some of these do not take, it's not on-off situation, because you require to do deep investigations. DCI has been at it, and I think it's only fair to allow them to continue. We've seen murder cases in this country take some time, even 5 years, even 10 years, but eventually they come to conclude. And I believe the case of Musando will be the same. One day,
even the lady, the young lady who was by his side,
yes,
yeah, because the family says the last time they spoke to the police is the day they wrote the statement. I mean, 5 years on, the family says even the police have not even called us back, even to check on us to see how we're doing.
I think we must also have faith in institutions and systems. The work of DCI, and he has fully fledged departments to investigate murder cases, is to do exactly that. I have told you there are cases that take even 10 years, but they come to conclude because a file cannot close before you have an answer. But obviously, we understand the frustrations of the families because they want answers now, because they have lost one of their loved ones and they want answers now. And all I can say is it was tragic, it is shameful for us, but we also allow the institutions to do their work without a lot of suspicion. There is no reason why a government would want not to give answers when it has them.
So you're assuring the family this is something that is still on?
That it is still on.
Yeah.
In fact, if they get to DCI and talk to the right person, probably they will be updated up to where, because it's within their right to know how far have the investigations gone. And I would encourage that they actually do so.
Okay. Something happened about a week or a week and a half ago. There was a court ruling and 200 million shillings was seized from the Kenya Kwanza running mate, Gachagua. And he claimed politics in this. And right, these are claims that they have been making for a long time about weaponizing institutions against them. But more of concern, Rigathi has been on your case several times. What is it between you and Rigathi Gachagua?
You know, the least said about Gachagua, the better. You know, he has a 205 million case concluded of theft. I don't work for his firms. I actually have never sat with Gachagua somewhere to discuss anything in his life. And it is fancy for him to imagine that his evil deeds, there is someone which is hunting him. It's convenient for him. But this is crime. He is a convicted criminal. He's stolen money to the tune of 205 million proven, and a court ruling given, which he has appealed. And I think he cannot drag all of us into his misfortunes. You know, we were not with him when he stole this money. He should deal with it. You know, I have seen the pathological lies that he's continued to tell about everybody, including about himself. And I think he needs a doctor, seriously. Because the way I've seen the lies coming, it doesn't look like it's a normal person. Because, you know, it's on record. Gachagua worked in Molo. I am the PS Interior. Gachagua worked in Molo. But you hear him in public saying, I didn't work there. I don't know how you can forget your workplaces so fast. Gachagua, actually, because some of these things, we preserve them because we think people are decent. Gachagua was actually dismissed, sacked from the Ministry of Interior for abscission when he was posted to Northeast.
Why is this dismissal letter not out, PS? And you are a PS
there. You see, we are not here to mudsling. Yeah. But
if it's ever been there.
You see, when you become a pathological liar, we also now say things that are factual about you. It is a fact that Gachagua was sacked.
Would you release that letter to the public to confirm this?
He never resigned from the Ministry of Interior. No. Tell him to show you a resignation letter. The burden of proof is on him.
Yeah, but you have made this allegation tonight. That
it's not an allegation. I'm the holder of the file.
Yes.
I am saying.
Would you release
it is in the file. I want to challenge you, Ken. Don't put the burden of proof on me. He is the one.
Whoever alleges.
Listen, he is the one who keeps saying he worked for Interior. I am putting it to him today that he never resigned. If he resigned, let him show us a resignation letter. Gachagua was sacked because when he was posted, after all he did, Molo, everywhere else, he was posted to, because he was a special DO who was going for special operations, posted to Northeastern, refused to report. Of course, when you don't report in a posting, you are dismissed, and allow around it a lot of allegations which are historical about even relief food. You know, these are things that are there on record. And I think if you challenge me enough, I can come here tomorrow and table them.
Yeah, I would really want, even through your Twitter handle and or the official Ministry of Interior, to release a letter showing, because he has denied that he was actually sacked and he worked. You know, when these issues fly around and you are not doing justice to Kenyans by releasing these documents, yet you are the custodian.
Listen, 2 weeks ago, he said that there is never an iota of evidence around his 200 million case. Didn't he say that? What have we seen? You know, we are talking about a liar who needs treatment. And I think if we cannot understand it as that as Kenyans, we are in deep trouble. Because if you can even deny where you worked, you say, I did not work in KTN in 2022. What can we call him? If you, next year, you say, Ken, has never worked in KTN, what would we call him? Because it's factual. You are not working in a forest. You are working in a place where there are people who know you, people who are alive, and you are still facing Kenyans and their children and telling them...
Why do you think he doesn't admit that he works for Interior?
Because of the atrocities that happened around that time. He doesn't want to be responsible for them. And I think we need to call some of these lies out. You know, let me tell you some things. And I hope you give me time to tell you lies that are being told. Yeah? Start with the police. You hear him say, because his sphere of knowledge is around police and government, national government administrators. It ends there. Ask him about the policies of even their own manifesto, he won't be able to explain. Ask him about Uganda, he won't be able to explain. Ask him about what is happening in Europe or Ukraine, he won't be able. So he concentrates on small matters like attacking Kibicho and Matiang'i. That is his hobby. He says that since 2012, police have never had a pay rise. He said that today. And he keeps saying, when he is telling police and chiefs and everybody, that when we take over government, we will give you a pay rise, which you have not got since 2012. I want to put it to you today. And police are watching me, and the chiefs are watching me. In 2012, before the president took power, a constable was earning a gross salary of 25,800,000.
That's the basic level.
25,800.
That's the basic level.
Gross. Today, they are earning 45,500. That is 77% pay rise. He is saying, today, he is saying they have never had a pay rise. Actually, money has been removed. Inspector, 2012, and these are facts. Inspectors are watching me. They can confirm.
Yeah, they will send messages to us if it's false what you're telling us.
50,000. Today, they are earning 83,000 gross. Because it's composed of very many other house allowance, police prison allowance, hardship allowance, extraneous allowance. I'm just putting it as gross.
Gross, okay.
66%. A commission, I'm just giving 3 layers so that the others are spread in between. A commissioner of police in 2012 was earning 146,700. Today, they're earning 175,400. And he has said they have actually not had a pay rise. I will go to the chiefs. In 2012, an assistant chief was earning a basic salary of 10,000. That's it. 10,000 and some small house allowance. That's it. Today, they are earning a basic salary. They are getting an AIE to facilitate their work, and they are earning what we call field service allowance. And on top, they have opened their job groups from job group F to job group N, where they can rise naturally without interviews. Secondly, county commissioners, when Gachagua was in service, was in job group S. Today there is job group T. But I'll give you real figures, because these lies that people continue perpetuating are actually very, very annoying to Kenyans. An assistant chief was earning 10,000 basic salary only. Today, it has gone to 16,000 entry point. But the scale I'm telling you is from F to N. So it can go, the salary I'm reading can go even to 50,000 as their year of service increase. I'm talking of entry point.
Okay.
They get an AIE. You know, remember when you are growing up, when you go to an assistant chief, they had to ask you for ink, for pens to sign your things. Today, that habit has been kicked out because they are given an AIE of 60,000 per year to do that, an assistant chief, and a field service allowance per month of 12,000. Okay. A chief gets an AIE of 120,000 and a field service allowance of 15,000. This is money that was not there when Gachagua was in service. A county commissioner in 2012 was earning a salary of 100,000. Today, because they're in job group T, they are earning 300,000 Kenya shillings. They are earning, getting an AIE of moving from 100,000 to 2.8 million per year, AIE. They are earning a field service allowance of 80,000 per month. You know, these are things that he has not familiarized with himself. And what you have heard them say, because we listen and we tabulate these things, the promises of these promises you hear, we will give you this, we will buy you this, we will add you this, the money adds to 30 trillion per year. Given to the administration? No, the things you hear, we will give you free fertilizer, we will buy you land, we will do this. It adds up. We have added up. It is 30 trillion. The land itself, the one that we are 2 million acres, we will buy and do this, it is 30.7 trillion. Now we are talking of people saying next year we will do things of 60.7 trillion. Beyond our budget. Our collection is barely 3 trillion. Where will be? Where will the 57 trillion come from? So these are pure lies being told to Kenya to hoodwink them so that they can vote for people. Then we start riots here because of unmet promises. Okay, so that in totality, what is the problem between him and yourself? It's because, of course, we come from the same region. He believes I don't support his political persuasion. He believes. So this politics? This politics. Okay. Gachagua is a very good friend of mine. When we meet tomorrow, we will take a drink. After the election, you sit down and talk? We'll toast. We'll actually drink some nice wine with Gachagua. Okay. So, and that's why I was telling Kenyans at the beginning, don't fight about this politics. Don't slap your brother. Don't stab your brother about this. These are politics, and it is fashionable for him because he thinks that we are the doormat of anybody with problems in government as Ministry of Interior. Okay. And because of that, it is fashionable to blame anything to us because it gives him an excuse of his failings. Okay. A week ago, there was a spat between Interior, by extension, DCI, and the IEBC, which should be working hand to hand. One, it sent a very wrong message to Kenyans. Then there was a resolution, and they said we have agreed to work together. Is this a ceasefire or is genuine handshake to work together, Daktari? I start by saying, and we have said this, my minister has said this, everybody in the security sector keeps saying this. We do not conduct elections in the country. The elections in this country are conducted by the IEBC. But IEBC need to be supported by so many people. Give you an example. For you to be able to vote, you will need an ID. But IEBC does not issue ID cards. So you will require an institution called National Registration Bureau to facilitate you with an ID so that IEBC can be able to fulfill its mandate. IEBC, when materials come, they will store them in a warehouse. They will need to transport them. They will need security around the polling station. IEBC does not have a police service of its own. So it will need a police service. And therefore, 1 year ago, because it was evident that we are going to have an election, we started preparing and we formed a multi-agency team that was mandated with the one they rejected, the IEBC rejected?
that was led from the judiciary?
I think there are many. The IEBC,
there are many. Okay.
IEBC, we have kept meeting with them. In fact, 2 weeks ago at the National Security Advisory Committee, we were with the chairman. I think on Friday or Thursday last week, we were at Safari Park with the whole team that is concerned with the election. So I want to say that our work is to support IEBC succeed. And that is why whatever they ask from us, we do. And the smallest part they had is concerning people who arrived in this country, who just showed up. Nobody was informed about them. They showed up with materials that belonged to IEBC and needed explanation.
How consequential, I'll just cut you short, I'll come back to that, but how consequential were those material that those Venezuelans were found with? What is the purpose of those stickers?
You see, for us, we take the explanation of IEBC because IEBC is the one mandated with the conduct of elections. And when materials arrive, ordinarily using the protocol that they've been using, they would notify us that tomorrow there will be the following consignment arriving, be there to provide security. And I think I wouldn't call it truce. It is the understanding between the DCI and the IEBC that has resolved that, because they had to explain materials have come, they have not been declared to customs, they have come as personal effects, they have come with people who are not declared, and therefore they had to explain. And I think the explanation that they gave to the DCI met the satisfaction of the DCI.
That was explanation on why they had to come the way they came. But the interest of that Kenyan perhaps would be, what was the purpose of those stickers? Are they consequential in this election? What do those stickers do?
You know, Ken, I'll only answer questions that relate to us.
You haven't done any investigations?
Of course, the explanation that IBC would give, these were stickers to be put on the Kim's kit to mark where they should be going. And it wasn't more than that. It wasn't any voting material other than identification. And I think it is that explanation, and after questioning by the DCI, that he was convinced that they meant well. And I think it's good because they came open, explained themselves to the DCI. It is good that we trust that both institutions acted in good faith.
The stickers that are put on the Kim's kit, Dr. Kibicho, and the stickers that are put on the ballot boxes for specific polling stations are activated when the two come together. The Kim's kit reads the ballot, and that's how it activates that Kim's kit for use for that specific polling station. I mean, that is something of consequence. To have a material that activates both the Kim's kit and the ballot box that puts it together at a polling station. I mean, it's consequential for someone to have them in their backpack. And just explanation, this was a sticker, like a price tag on a good in the supermarket. It sufficed for the DCI, and the DCI said this is sufficient, and we have to leave it at that.
You know, we cannot trivialize the work of the DCI like that. DCI was first of all very vigilant. That is, DCI and customs officials were very vigilant. That is how they came to discover these are undeclared materials that do not look like personal effects.
Okay.
First, we must commend them for being vigilant. Number two,
not forgetting other Venezuelans had not been detected.
Let's go step by step.
Okay.
Number two, it is not like they were held somewhere and an explanation was given. Remember, it took 3 days. And in those 3 days, DCI was checking at a lot of information, including the electronic devices that he had picked from the people who had come with the
flash disks and computers.
And it's in the public domain. And after going through them and getting the explanation from IEBC, he was convinced.
Okay.
I think we take it as that, because we must not assume that DCI sat somewhere and he was explained and he released. He took 3 days to go through each of those items.
All right, so let's go back to the initial question. They're working together now because this is something, these are teams that must work together. So I asked, was that a ceasefire or it was genuine handshake? And they're working for Kenyans for this election, that the IBC and Interior are indeed working together for Kenyans in this election?
Entry point is that Interior is in full support of IEBC to conduct a free, fair and credible election. And I put it to you that in the last 1 year, the Ministry of Interior and IEBC have been working together to ensure that the electoral process is given the protection from that is required from the Ministry of Interior as much as required. In fact, IEBC has taken, you know, in our deployment, we are deploying police officers into polling centers. We have police officers that will be deployed in tallying centers. We have police officers that will be deployed to escort materials either to the polling centers or to the tallying centers. And remember, this is a special assignment, and IEBC has taken the trouble to educate all these police officers through this collaboration that we are having on what this task entails. And the perception being created like there is animosity between the Ministry of Interior and IEBC is wrong. We are working well with IEBC. It is not for cameras that there was a truce, and it does not mean that if the DCI or any police officer for that matter suspects a criminal effect by IEBC, they are not justified to us. But asking and getting an explanation that satisfies them ends the matter there.
Okay. I don't know if you're part of the deep state, but the concern again that we've heard from the campaign platform is there are attempts from whatever side to compromise this election. You sit right at the top, you know, in the management and governing of this country, in that ministry, coordination of national government. Would you tell Kenyans tonight that this election will be free, fair and credible?
First of all, I don't know what deep state. Maybe you should educate me. And I think those are loose words used by people when they want to cause scare and sell fear to others. We as Ministry of Interior are people who have been given the mandate to provide security as one of them, because a lot of people forget that our functions are beyond security. People forget that we have other functions and a lot of other institutions, registration bureau, we have the civil registration, we have immigration, we have even NTSA. People forget all those and remember just security. But just coming to the function of security, it is our responsibility to ensure that every Kenyan here feels secure. It is our responsibility to ensure that as people go on with their business, they feel secure. Because the cardinal responsibility of any government, whether it's Kenyan, Ugandan, Japanese, American, is besides the sovereignty to provide security, protect property, protect lives. That's the cardinal responsibility of any government, and we are not failing in it. That is why, Ken, in the last 10 years, you are able to sleep soundly. You are able to walk around this town without a problem. You are able to find supermarkets that are working 24 hours. You are able to find people everywhere. Look at even booming businesses like Uber. There are times a taxi could not carry a person before they know who they are. But now, because of the security infrastructure that we have put in place, you can find that people are more confident. I put it to you because I'm the accounting officer of even the police service. Every year since His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta took over, we spend 10 billion shillings to try to kit the police officers. Before, if you look at the way they were kitted, they could not even fight the emerging new modes of crime. But now they are able to fight with crime even as it mutates into different forms because they are well kitted. But besides being well kitted, you know, I told you about the kind of pay and motivation that we've put. There are two fundamental things we have put to police. Tomorrow, His Excellency the President will be opening a brand new hospital for police officers next to Bagadi tomorrow, which will be able to take care of police who are injured in the line of duty and their families. But before then, we have been spending 5.3 billion in the new dispensation to pay for comprehensive medical cover for police, so that if their children are sick, if they themselves are sick, they don't have to worry, they are insured. And on top, 4.8 billion for what we call group life, so that if they are injured in the line of duty, they are able to be compensated. If they lose lives, their families are able to be compensated. These are some of the things that have motivated our police, and no wonder you are finding our country very safe. And what I want to assure Kenyans, because we have proper deployment, this election, to the best of our ability, and we have done rehearsals, we have modeled, we have gone to every extent to ensure that it will be free, fair, and credible alongside the work of IEBC. We will provide the security where it's required. We will provide the support to IEBC as required to ensure that Kenyans are comfortable. And that is what we are employed to do, and we shall do.
Okay, we have a few minutes on the clock, and I'd like to ask you this because President Uhuru Kenyatta is in his sunset days. He's about to leave, but there's a concern also about the preparations for handover, seamless handover as it should be. The transitional committee, for example?
It's a creation of law. You know, I saw people talk of a president appointing people to the committee. This committee is a creation of the law. It's not a creation of the president.
Okay.
And its timetable kicks in accordance with the law. And what I can assure you, it doesn't matter who the winner is. Once the election is done, it's called Assumption of Office Committee. Its functions and its timelines are stipulated in law. It's in place. We are ready because I'm a member of that committee. Just waiting for the timelines. Therefore, plan. And what does it do? Is to plan for an event of handing over. It's basically a planning committee for the handing over of power. Select the venue, make the program, prepare the instruments, ensure that there is proper coordination, and then the function rolls out in accordance with the law.
Okay. And
that one is not a creation of the outgoing or the incoming president.
It's a creation
the law
of the
is very clear.
Okay.
Once the election is done and there is declared a winner, even what you should do before the swearing in, including security briefs for both the incoming and the outgoing. It's very clear, and there is no gap in it.
Okay, Dr. Kibicho, we're coming back to finish because we are almost out of time. But I'd like to take this opportunity because every night we have a video of the week on News Hour. Let's take a look at this week's video of the week. We'll be back.
To be tolerant, democracy cannot operate unless we are tolerant. You tolerate your friend, your neighbor, to have an opinion different from yours. You don't have to call him names. He has a right to differ from you. That is his fundamental right. And he was not made so as to be managed by you or guided by you.
I think, Dr. Kibicho, this is a very important message to Kenyans, as at this time, especially because it's in 5 days we will be going to an election, and that message of peace. So even as we end, the most and the biggest assurance that Kenyans would want tonight is that they will go vote at the polling stations, and they will go back home, and at the end of the day, that vote shall count.
First, let me say we are lucky people to be alive in 2022 when God is presenting us with an opportunity to make a decision that will propel our country forward. Secondly, whether you vote for a candidate who loses or wins, you have expressed your will. And that is very, very important, because people must not think that voting is only meaningful for the people who win. It is obviously good and easy to celebrate a win. But I want to urge our Kenyans to know this. The country will be as good as the leaders we have. And we have an opportunity on Tuesday to remember that when you enter into that polling booth and you are holding a ballot paper and a pen, you are holding the future of this country in your hands. And the choice you make there will determine whether we are going forward, stagnating, or going backwards. And I think it is very important for the remaining few days, every Kenyan to call himself for a meeting or herself. Go and ask yourself, what are the important parameters that you need in a leader? I want to tell you this, Ken. We have been doing a lot of civic education around this country, and we have had Kenyans. And I equate what we are going to do on Tuesday to the choices we even have to make in the supermarket. If I want to go and buy a bathing soap, there are so many of them. There is Geisha, there is Carsons, there is Lifebuoy, hata iko ile kipande. And if you asked me just before you go to buy, I will define for you the characteristics of the soap you buy to make you clean, make you have good odor. And this is exactly the situation we are faced with next week. We have at the top, because that's important, 4 presidential candidates. And they all have different characteristics, very diverse, which everybody must analyze clearly. Do you want a person with the following characteristics? If you don't want, then know the future of the country is with you with the pen and the ballot paper. And I urge us not to think that it is a waste of time. It is our civic duty to ensure that on 9th we all wake up, go queue. Nowadays we don't queue for long because a polling station is a maximum of 700 people. I am sure from the preparations of IEBC won't take long, maybe 30 minutes. Go and express yourself and perform your civic duty, so that later, Ken, you do not come and start saying we have bad roads, we have bad leadership, our budget is being misappropriated, we have no peace because of choices you've made. Because our country will be as good as the leaders we choose next week. Okay.
In less than 1 minute, I have less than 1 minute. Your bias, because everyone says you are biased towards a candidate, your Ministry of ICT, and it's been seen openly in support of a particular candidate. Well, that notwithstanding, do you think this compromises your ability to deliver a good election to this country?
You know, first of all, I want to deny that we are biased. We are not biased.
Okay, biased towards?
We are not even biased towards or to us or towards. We are not biased. I want to deny that. What we have done is to do our work with people who think that work is worth. And when we are invited to educate our people, we will go to where there is an invitation. And I have kept saying, because I know you just want to be diplomatic, you are saying we are biased towards Azimio, because sometimes we are seen in the meetings. I want to challenge tomorrow. There are 3 days left of campaigns. Kenya Kwanza to invite me and give me a microphone to speak in their meeting, to tell the people about the leadership they must look for, because we never go and say, vote for so and so. We go and say, do not vote for a corrupt person. Do not vote for a dishonest person. Do not vote for a person who is consistent in his speeches. Do not vote for people who are emotional. Do not vote for people who have low emotional intelligence. Do not vote for people who are unstable, because the consequences can be there for this country. This is all the message we say. Then, because as I exit, Ken, you are called Ken. If you walk in town and a person calls out Ken, even if it's not you, the tendency is you'll turn to check. There is nobody in this country whose first name is Thief. It cannot be possible that whenever we say thief, the word thief is mentioned, there is a group of people that turns and you haven't said who they are. You haven't called anybody a thief. You've just mentioned the word thief. And just like when you're walking in town, the pronouncement of Ken will make you turn. There is a pronouncement of the word thief that makes a group of people turn.
All right. Dr. Karanja Kibicho, thank you so much. PS Minister of Interior and Coordination of National Government. I got it right now.
Now you got it perfect.
I got it right. Thank you for watching News Hour. Remember, our election coverage begins. It's 5 days to the most consequential election of our time. You have to make the right choice. As I always say on this show, we need to keep talking as Kenyans. And because the day we stop talking, that's the day we start to fight. It's a good place to end the show tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, PS, for coming tonight. And on behalf of the whole crew, Damien Evans, Ali on Sign Language, have a good night. God bless. We do this again, God willing, next week, same place. That will be Wednesday. I'll be somewhere else. Good night.